Well, hey guys, David here, and I wanted to do a video on things. It may be a series, I don't know yet, but things that used to scare me when I was a kid that no longer scare me. And one of the things that used to terrify me when I was a child was the Bible. And God especially, God used to scare the hell out of me. I was raised in one of those fire and brimstone type of churches, and the thing that used to scare me the most was the end of the world, the book of Revelations. Like when I was going to church, I was always told that the world was going to end in the year 2000. And I did the math when I was a little kid, and I understood that I was going to be 26 years old in the year 2000. And the one thing that I always wanted to do was to be able to drive a car. So I realized, and it actually made me happy, that I would be able to drive a car by the time I was 16, so I would be able to drive a car for a couple years before the world ended. And here I am now, 47 years old, and it's 2021 and the world still hasn't ended. But I wanted to focus mainly on the book of Revelation and how now, as an adult and an atheist and someone who's studied more and is more intelligent and hasn't been just someone that just believes some preacher standing up there shouting out a bunch of nonsense, I now understand what the book of Revelation truly is. It's not a prediction about future events. It's a political document written for people of the time. And what I mean by this is that when John was being held on Patmos, he was a political prisoner. And Rome, specifically Nero, was persecuting the Jewish people under Roman authority. And this was a political document written in coded language so that John could get out a message. And that's why it's directed at these churches out there. It was to say, have hope, Jesus is going to come back, Jesus is going to rescue us. And I think if you look at it from this point of view, you'll understand that Revelations is not talking about some future event that's going to happen and the world's going to come to an end. In John's mind, the world was coming to an end then because of what was happening under Roman authority. And it makes so much sense because even all of the iconography, all the famous, the four horsemen, the sun turning black like sackcloth and the moon turning to blood, all these things are connections in the Jewish mind, the people that would have been reading this book, and it brings them back to the 10 plagues of Egypt. All of that, wormwood, the seas boiling, everything turning to blood, the sun not giving off any light, that goes all the way back to the 10 plagues that you can read about, where it was the sun was darkened for 3 days, and the death of the firstborn, and all the plagues, and the Nile turning to blood, all of that. It's just John's way of refreshing the memory of his reader and saying, hey, remember this happened back during time when we were in captivity in Egypt? Well, now we're under captivity by Roman authority, and the same thing's going to happen, and we're all going to be saved just like we were back during the Exodus. So, if you look at the four horsemen, the famous four horsemen, the rider on the white horse, which everybody associates with the Antichrist, who is given a crown to go out and conquer. All John's talking about here is earthly rulers. He's saying God is going to trump all these earthly rulers because God is the number one authority. Jesus is the king, and all of these cruel earthly conquerors, rulers are going to be destroyed. The rider on the red horse, obviously war. That's all that is, war. He was given a sword and go to take peace from the earth. War. The scales, the rider with the scales, that is obviously, and this goes to the mark of the beast, it's not talking about some futuristic chip or anything like that. Because back during that time, that's why Jesus got mad at the money changers. Because in order to do business in the temple, you had to take Roman coin, which was the currency of the day, but because it was pagan, you had to exchange that for shekels in the temple, Jewish money, in order to purchase your lamb or your dove or your whatever in order to do your sacrifice to atone for sin at the temple. And the people had become so enamored by Roman wealth that they pretty much worshipped it, this image with, this idol with Caesar's face on it. And that's why Jesus said, render unto Caesar what is Caesar and render unto God what is God's. And that's why he got mad at the money changers, because it was introducing a pagan idol into the temple, which was supposed to be a holy place. So the scale just shows Roman control of economics in Judea. That's all it is. And then we get to the death horse, which the death horse, war, economical control, ruthless conquerors, death always follows. It's obvious. And then, of course, when you get to the 144,000, which, there's a lot of religious groups out there that believe that that's them, they're going to be raptured and they're going to be the 144,000. It's not. These are 12,000 from each of the 12 tribes of Judea, because this is what's caused the Jewish people to be hated for centuries, because in their writings, they're the chosen people. And every other people are Gentiles, and the chosen people get this special authority under God, and this is what makes all of the other peoples of the earth hate the Jews, because the Jews say that we're special and we're above all of you and we're going to judge you. And that's what the 144,000 are, the judges. So it's just, it's what causes anti-Semitism. So then, we get to the beasts out of the earth and the beasts out of the sea and all that different stuff. And all John is doing here, if you read these beasts are very similar to beasts from the book of Daniel. And the book of Daniel is another story, like the Egyptian story, where the Jewish people were being under the rule of, back then it was the Babylonians, Nebuchadnezzar. And here again, John is trying to make a connection between what's happening in his time to what happened in the past, and say, look, God saved us during that time. It was these similar beasts, and he saved us just like he saved us under the Egyptians. He's going to save us now under the Romans. That's all he's saying. It's like trying to prophesy something, but you already know the material. Like if I was going to write a prophecy, it's kind of a cheap way to write a prophecy, because I already read the book of Daniel or I read the book of Exodus, and I can write my predictions in accordance to what's happened in the past that I already know that happened, and then I can present it as like some future event's going to happen, like I'm a prophet or something, when really I just read it and then just wrote my story to correspond with that. And then, you get to, the 666, the famous 666. And everybody's like, that's the Antichrist. That's the Antichrist. Well, if you know anything about Jewish writing, numbers, letters, anything like that, you know that the Jewish letters have numbers that are associated with them. It's called gematria. You can look it up. It's very easy to find. Gematria, numbers associated with Jewish letters. Like I said, this was a political document, and what John was afraid of, he's like, well, I can't just come out and say Nero is a bad guy, because everybody knows Nero's a bad guy, but I can't say it, because if this book falls into Roman hands, they're either going to destroy it because it's propaganda against Caesar, or they're going to just come kill me, so I have to code it. And he knew that his Jewish readers would understand what gematria was. And when he said 666, they would take the 666, put it in their alphabet, and they would come up with Caesar Nero. You can look it up. That's what it does. It spells 666 Caesar Nero. That's who he was talking about. And so it's just a political document to people that were being persecuted. He was using other writings to create his book, and using other stories that were well known, such as when Jesus said, not one stone will be left on top of one another, when he was talking about the temple. And that actually happened in 70 AD. But because John is writing after 70 AD, he's able to go back and look and say, okay, Jesus said this supposedly, so this temple did actually get destroyed, so I'm going to, and put that into my story, and they say there's going to be a new temple that comes down from heaven and all this different stuff. And it's just to give the people hope. Because back then, the Christians believed, because Jesus said, many of you will not taste death before I return. Now Jesus had been gone for 40 plus years or longer, and the people were starting to lose hope. And, Rome was really breaking, coming down hard. They had destroyed the temple. Masada had happened. They had they were doubly ruling the Jewish people and really making them suffer. So John's like, I'm going to give the people hope like the old prophets did in the Old Testament, like Daniel did, like the writers of Exodus did, and say, hey, everything's going to be okay. Jesus is going to come back and he's going to rescue us all. And that's all it is. And now looking back on it, I can't believe that scared me, because I thought all of that was something that was going to happen in the future. I actually believed that there was going to be dragons coming out of the ocean and all this stuff, and I didn't understand that it was just coded political language, because John couldn't say Rome is bad. The woman and the beast is, the city on 7 hills. Everybody knew that. Everybody reading it back then would have known that John is talking about Rome. He's talking about Rome. He's talking about Rome. It's not something that is a future event. It's now. Even when he uses the old stories of the Nebuchadnezzar, about all of the different, the head is gold and the breastplate is silver, and finally get down to the toes and all that. And what he's saying is that it's the Antichrist, it is a little horn that comes up. It's all focused on Rome, because during that time, during John's time, Nero was persecuting Christians. He was feeding them to lions in the Colosseum. He was burning them in his gardens to use as lights for his parties. And a lot of bad things were going on, and the people were scared. So John was like, I got to write these letters to the churches in order to keep them strong, to keep them focused, that no matter how bad things are right now, Jesus is going to come back and save us. And that's all it is. And if you understand that, it won't scare you anymore, because it's a document for the past. It has nothing to do with the future. It has nothing to do with today. It happened thousands of years ago, and it's over with. So this is David, Zoe Zizzles. Hope you like this. Make sure to like and subscribe. Have a good one. Bye.